What up, though, y'all? It's your boy Shane G. We are back with another episode of Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Now, last week, what I did was, just kept it real with y'all about what's really going on over in Ukraine as far as how we got involved initially, right? Now, what I want to do today is show you how the media, mainstream media specifically, um, but how they all work together in conjunction to basically create narratives, right? So I'm going to show y'all some stuff from when Obama was president, things that they were saying about Ukraine and the Ukrainian military and certain segments of the Ukrainian military, right? And then I'm going to show you what they're saying today about those same exact people and the way that the media will all work together to collaborate in a sense to make sure that everybody's on one accord when it comes to how a narrative is spun or how a story is being told, right? So if you start noticing, you're gonna see what I'm saying, but you'll notice that articles that I'm gonna read you guys from like 8 years ago, 6 years ago, they paint what we're gonna be discussing today, which is the Azov Battalion. They paint them in a very negative way 8 years ago. Today, they try to act like they never said any of the stuff and they act like it's all Russian propaganda and it's conspiracy and all of this stuff, right? Well, we're going to get into the reality of that situation. So, thank you all for joining me once again. Let's get into it. Now, according to Wikipedia, let me blow this up a little bit so I can read it a little bit better for y'all. According to Wikipedia, right, the Special Operations Detachment, aka Azov, also known as the Azov Regiment and formerly the Azov Battalion, is a unit of the National Guard of Ukraine, formerly based in Mariupol in the coastal region in the Sea of Azov, from which it derives its name. The unit was founded in May 2014 as a volunteer paramilitary militia under the command of Andrei Blitsky to fight pro-Russian forces in the Donbass War and was formally incorporated into the National Guard on November 11th, 2014. Okay? Nothing wrong so far. Let's get into the nonsense and what really struck me about this whole thing. The group has drawn controversy over its early. Now, look at the wording here. Look at how they're wording this, right? The group has drawn controversy over its early and allegedly continuing association with far right groups and neo Nazi ideology, its use of controversial symbols linked to Nazism, and early allegations. See, they keep trying to make it seem like this is in the past. And early allegations that members of the group participated in torture and war crimes. Allegations, not, hey, this is what happened. We're going to get into this in a little bit. That's why all this language right here that they're using is funny to me because it's pretty obvious what they're doing here is all the words that they're using, like allegedly and all of these different things. They're doing that to cast doubt in your head about this group's actual Nazi ties. That's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. What they're doing is they're like, some people say this and some people act like this was a thing. And, allegedly they're doing all of that on purpose to try to cast doubt in your head. Like, wait, why are people saying they're Nazis? Like, I guess they're not really though, right? Let's look. So let me blow it back up again. Now, some experts are critical of the regiment's role within the larger Azov movement, a political umbrella group made up of veterans and organizations linked to Azov, and its possible far-right political ambitions, despite claims of the regiment's depoliticalization. Others argue that the regiment has evolved beyond its origins as a street militia, tempering its neo-Nazi and far-right underpinnings as it became part of the National Guard. Since 2014, criticism of the Azov Regiment has been a recurring theme of Russian propaganda, and the unit has been designated a terrorist group by Russia since August 2022. Now, again, why are they doing that, right? this is like we discussed last time. They're calling it Russian propaganda to say that the Azov Battalion or the Azov Regiment are Nazis or neo Nazis. They're saying that that's Russian propaganda to say that. Now, notice what they're not saying. They're not saying it's not true. They're trying to slant your opinion by saying that's Russian propaganda. They're not saying that because it's Russia propaganda makes it not factual, though. Pay attention to that. All right. Let's get into a little bit more. Now, this article was written by CNN this year, March 30th of 2022. A far-right battalion has a key role in Ukraine's resistance. Its neo-Nazi history has been exploited by Putin. Now, pause there. CNN is acknowledging that they have neo-Nazi history and that they're a far-right militia. Right there. They still figure out a way to make it Russia's fault. It's being exploited by Putin. What? Are you saying that the fact that he's pointing out, yo, you guys are supporting a bunch of Nazis is an exploitation? Or is that a point of fact? Like, hey, America, you're helping out Nazis right now. Like, which is it, you know? So let's look at the actual article, though, and see what it says. Azov's military and political wings formally separated in 2016 when the far-right National Corps Party was founded. The Azov Battalion had by then been integrated into the Ukrainian National Guard. So let's just stop there. The Azov Battalion, when they still had their, quote-unquote, when they still had their neo-Nazi ties, they were integrated into the official military of Ukraine. Because this says that this happened in 2014. They allegedly didn't denazify or whatever until 2016. So that means Ukraine accepted them as Nazis. Keep that in mind. Let's keep going. An effective fighting force that's very much involved in the current conflict, the battalion has a history of neo-Nazi leanings, which have not been entirely extinguished by its integration into the Ukrainian military. So at least CNN's keeping it real there. In its heyday as an autonomous militia, the Azov Battalion was associated with white supremacists and neo-Nazi ideology and insignia. It was especially active and in around Mariupol in 2014 and 2015. CNN teams in the area at the time reported Azov's embrace of neo-Nazi emblems and paraphernalia. There was pictures of it, is what they mean. Like there's still, I didn't get any for this, unfortunately, but you can Google it right now. 2022 Azov Battalion or 2022 Ukrainian military. I almost guarantee you're going to see somebody with some sort of Nazi insignia or you're going to see it. I've seen so many pictures from very recent with Nazi insignia and little kids doing the Hail Hitler salute and all of this. And I'm not making none of this up. And all of it is from this year. Okay, so I just want this whole they used to be Nazis a few years ago and got rid of all of it nonsense. Let's keep going. President Vladimir Putin framed the Russian invasion of Ukraine as a special mission to protect Russian speakers from genocide at the hands of neo-Nazis. Remember last week what we talked about when I said that the Donbass region was being bombed by Ukraine, and they are all, for the most part, ethnically Russian. 90% of that region voted for the president of Ukraine, who actually was on good terms with Russia before the coup happened. So, and the Ukraine themselves were bombing, and it was the Azov Battalion, that was a lot of them, they were bombing people in the Donbass region. So, again, even if that's not 100% of what Putin's doing, because I never believed that any world leader is ever invading another country or anything like that for altruistic reasons. It's never that. Nobody is ever going out to go save people because it's the right thing to do. There's always some sort of incentive in it for the world leader that's going to go do it. So with all that being said, I don't think he's doing it because he wants to save the people in the Donbass region. But when the thing that you're doing also is true, like I said, like, hey, you guys are targeting a bunch of Russian people unfairly in this one area, and a side effect of me invading you is I get to save them and I get to look good doing it to my people. Like both things can be true. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that's his motivation, but it is a side effect. So there you go. Let's keep going. In a speech broadcast minutes before the invasion began on February 24th of this year, Putin said, "We will seek to demilitarize and denazify Ukraine, ignoring the fact that the country's president, Vladimir Zelensky, is Jewish." Okay, I think that's a stupid point. So are you saying that racism in America doesn't exist anymore because we had a black president? I know that's not what you're saying, CNN. You know how I know that's not what you're saying? Because as soon as Barack Obama wasn't the president anymore and Donald Trump was in office, everything was, oh, Trump is so racist, Trump is so racist, Trump is so racist. Oh, MAGA people are so racist, MAGA people are so racist. Oh, right wingers are so racist, right wingers are so racist. It was all of that. And I'm not disagreeing with a large chunk of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? All Republicans, definitely not. All right wingers, all, it's never all. But yeah, there's a certain segment, of course. But for you to say that, because their president is Jewish, that means there can't be Nazis in the military. What you're saying is because Barack Obama was president, he was the commander in chief, there's no more racism in the military. Again, we know that's not true. So, stupid point. That's a horrible point. For the Kremlin, Exhibit A in this special mission is the far-right Azov movement, part of the military and political landscape in Ukraine for nearly a decade. Okay. Now, this is what I want to talk about with y'all now. Okay? This is what they're saying about Ukraine now. They're saying, yo, they're not really Nazis for real. Yo, that was a long time ago. Putin is exploiting the fact that some of them were Nazis for his own gain. Their president's Jewish, so they can't have Nazis and all of this, right? Okay. Congress bans arms to Ukraine militia linked to neo-Nazis. When was this? Oh, this was 2018. Wow. Wow. 4 years ago, y'all. Crazy. Let's read. A little notice provision in the 2,232 page government spending bill passed last week bans U.S. arms from going to a controversial ultra-nationalist militia in Ukraine that has openly accepted neo-Nazis in its ranks. House-passed spending bills for the past 3 years have included a ban on U.S. aid to Ukraine from going to the Azov Battalion, but the provision was stripped out before the final passage each year. This year, though, the $1.3 trillion omnibus spending bill signed into law last week stipulates that none of the funds made available by this act may be used to provide arms, training, or other assistance to the Azov Battalion. That's interesting. That's not that long. That's 2018. White supremacy. This is current Senator Ro Khanna. White supremacy and neo-Nazism are unacceptable and have no place in our world. Rep. Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, an outspoken critic of providing lethal aid to Ukraine, said in a statement to The Hill on Tuesday, "I am very pleased that the recently passed omnibus prevents the U.S. from providing arms and training assistance to the neo-Nazi Azov Battalion fighting in Ukraine." Good job, Ro Khanna. Except that was in 2018. Where do you stand on things now? Congressman Ro Khanna prioritizing military aid for Ukraine. That was written March 2022. And briefly, we will look at this couple lines from the article. Congressman Ro Khanna, California 17th District, assured Ukraine's consul general based in San Francisco that he's working with colleagues on the House Armed Services Committee to prioritize sending weapons and military aircraft to Ukraine. We have to get more weapons, in my view, into the hands of Ukrainians, Khan said at his Santa Clara office Monday. What happened? What happened in those 4 years to where you go from making such strong statements, such as white supremacy and neo Nazism are unacceptable and have no place in our world. I am very pleased that the recently passed omnibus prevents the U.S. from providing arms and training assistance to the neo Nazi Azov Battalion fighting in Ukraine. But then 4 years later, we have to get more weapons, in my view, into the hands of Ukrainians. Now, I'm going to ask you, do you think Ukrainian citizens are fighting this war? Or do you think it's, the people who are in the military since 2014? What do you think it is? Now, why is the position so flip-flopped is my question to everybody who's watching today. I'm just going to leave that question there for you too. I want you guys to put in the comments why you think the media was all on one accord when it came to who the Azov Battalion or the Azov Regiment was, what they were about. And then just a few years later, all of a sudden, because Trump got elected president, he's a Putin puppet, and Trump Russia, and so now everybody in America is primed to hate Russia. Oh, Russia's invading Ukraine. That means we're on Ukraine's side. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So that's what that is. They've duped America into thinking that Russia is this evil superpower, which it is in a lot of ways, and what they're doing is war crimes, like for sure. My thing is, we're not the judges of that because we commit war crimes all over the world constantly, and we flip-flop on our positions when it's at our convenience, as we can see right here. I just proved it to you. I showed you one guy's words who said, I'm so proud that we're not sending any weapons over there. 4 years ago, he said that. And then this year, he says, I am prioritizing sending weapons to those same people that I just said I'm happy we're not sending weapons to 4 years ago. And I called them white supremacists and Nazis. And now everybody is saying words like allegedly and they formerly had ties and all of this stuff. Like, my question to you, everybody, is 400 years of slavery and then all the years of Jim Crow, segregation, redlining, and all that stuff, right, in America. We haven't fixed it. So do y'all realistically think that in 8 years they're going to be able to denazify parts of their military? Come on. You know what's even crazier? Is that Wikipedia article that I read to you? They changed that very recently. I don't have proof. But I know for sure in my own mind. I know this. I looked up the Azov Battalion a few weeks ago, and it was much more explicit in the way that they described that they were Nazis. Like, it was basically like, no, this is an acknowledged thing, like that they're Nazis, and that's what it is. Like, now the way it's written, though, I just showed you guys, it's super, well, these people say this, and some people allege this, and we're not really for sure, and maybe back in the day they had some ties, but not really now anymore, and Ukraine says they're cool, so we believe it, and come on, yo. I just want you guys to see where you're being lied to. That's it. I just want you to see it. Because now you see it with your eyes. You see it. And this is one example, but that's the beautiful thing about the internet. Things live forever. So I can go back to 8 years ago when it was like, yo, you were saying this. You can't pretend you never said that. Just so that because you're saying something the opposite now, you either got to provide an explanation that makes sense of why you changed your mind, or I get to hold you accountable, you hypocrite. And that's where we're at right now with it. So pay attention. That's it. That's really all I got for y'all. Pay attention. Because, again, the truth is always out there. It's just you got to find it. You gotta really know how they're spinning stuff. You got to know the language that they're using to try to trick you and to try to make you think certain things and to slant your view. But you just have to know that you're not crazy if you know you saw something one day and then the next day it says something different to slant your opinion. You know, this isn't a Bernstein Bears situation where you know what I mean. This isn't one of those. Like I know for sure because I've been researching this. So I know for sure that I looked that up on Wikipedia. And that's the thing about Wikipedia too. You can just change it. Anybody can just change it. So somebody could have went in there and changed it and put in all the allegedlys and the maybes and the we're not for sures and all of that stuff. But I know when I saw it before, it was like, nah, these dudes are Nazis. Like, and it is what it is. Like, you know, so like I said, man, y'all leave in the comments. Y'all let me know, you know, where we're at with it as far as you know, other blatant lies that you've seen in the media like this, where you know for sure you read something one way, and then it's like, wait a minute, you know, another example of that um when one person is in office and they talk about an issue like it's the worst thing in the world, and then somebody else takes that same office, the same issue's happening, but they just act like it's gone away. When's the last time you heard about kids in cages? That's all I'm saying. You haven't heard about it in a minute, I'm sure, unless you watch channels like this. You know what I'm saying? So pay attention to that, y'all. Pay attention. Pay attention. That's what we're here for. This is Shane G. This is Politics as Usual right here on the Ethos Media Network. Make sure you like, you share, you subscribe. We're here every Saturday. Just, you know, sharing the game that I'm picking up over the weeks, you know what I mean? So, you know, if you like what you're hearing, if you don't like what you're hearing, if you disagree with it, but you know, you want to have some healthy debate, I'm all for all of that. So let me know. Comments. Peace.